Welcome to the Conscious Diabetic Podcast.
Welcome back to episode, I think it's 5 of the Conscious Diabetic Podcast. Thank you for tuning in on Spotify or wherever you tuned in. This week, we have a change of guest. It was supposed to be a friend of mine who did a 100-kilometer run in 24 hours, who's a type 1 diabetic, but he wasn't available. But I've replaced it with someone who is just as equally as crazy and as good as him. His name is Audun Daniels. He's a friend of mine who I've known for many years, met through music, I think, as I meet everyone through music or the dance floor. He is a world champion karate person, we'll call it. I'm not going to know the exact name, European champion or whatever. I'm sure he's going to tell us all everything as what he's done. So yeah, please welcome Audun Daniels to talk about diabetes, really.
Thank you very much, Brett. Nice to be involved. Yes, so obviously I'm going to tell you about a little bit about obviously my experiences, obviously what does my influence in life, and obviously what's the signals obviously during what's happened to me with my diabetes, and how I actually deal with my diabetes during training and during competition.
Right, let's go back then. Let's start right from the back as a child, or actually in the background there's obviously a big massive picture that people will be able to see of a handsome man. So please, and you've got trophies, medals, all these things, so please give us some context of what is in the back there, mate.
Well, the person behind back is my late father, who's obviously is one of the massive influence on my life. Obviously, he was my teacher, my mentor, was, great, one of my best friends, obviously, and obviously some of the trophies. There's only some of the trophies that I've accumulated over the years. But yeah, so my dad, obviously, he did karate for 57 years. Trained he was one of the world chief instructor for our organization of style of karate that we do, which is Kimura Shukakai. But obviously it's in the family. So obviously my mother does it, my daughter does it, and obviously I've done it. So we're all a champion family. So, obviously, yeah. So it's kind of, I started training when I was 7, well, just 6, turning 7, which, so it's nearly over 30 years ago. Obviously I was a big stocky lad when I was when I started, but obviously that didn't stop me, because I was always very into sport. When I was at school, I was in the football team, the basketball team, every sport. I was always into teamwork and, karate and physical activity. So it's something I've always enjoyed. But obviously with the karate, obviously I've always been very into it, because obviously the discipline and the regime that it teaches you in life, and obviously gives you, it's not just about kicking and punching, it's also about being a good person, respect for others, discipline, and that all, builds a part of the character, within. So obviously I started competing obviously when I was 9. I won my very first tournament, obviously, in that tournament. Obviously, wasn't in the fight, because in karate, you have what you call kata and we have kumite. So kumite is more the fighting, and kata is all into the movements against your imaginary opponents. Well, obviously, I was never a natural fighter it never came naturally when I was younger. So, but obviously I started to win in the kata, but the natural ability started to come later on when I've been training, and it just seemed to click, you know what I mean, and then come together.
Sorry, you'll hear the dog. You'll hear the dogs in the background if anyone's wondering what that noise is, because we were a little bit later than usual because AJ wasn't available till this evening. So
yeah,
the dogs are making a noise in case. So yeah. So you started competing at 9 years old, 10 years old.
9 years old, yes. So I started winning like in the kata regime, and obviously by the time I was 11, I started to pick up medals in fighting. But by the time I was 13, I competed in my first world championship and represented England in Japan. That for all the places to compete in first, to go to Japan was an amazing experience. We spent like 2 weeks out there. We went to like the tournament was in Kobe in Osaka, and then we'd like traveled around, Japan a little bit, and then ended up in Tokyo, which was really amazing to see.
Yeah, I was going to say 13 years old, flying off to Japan. And what would that have been? How old are you now? 36, did you say? 30?
I would have been, well, I'm 40 now, so obviously I would have been 1994.
Yeah.
So obviously when I competed in my first one, I actually, although I was 13, I actually competed in the 14 to 16-year-olds, because when I lined up to be in the 10 to 13, which was my age category, I was like I was nearly 2 foot taller than the other Japanese, and the promoters came in and said, "There's no way we're letting this guy fight against all of these little kids. He's got to destroy them." So they kind of, and we had to show up. My dad was like, "No, this is his passport. Look at this is his age." They wouldn't have it. So obviously, anyway, they moved me up, and obviously my first international tournaments in the fighting, I came third. So I was quite pleased with that anyway. So.
And then what happened over the years? So when you obviously
over the years, then my next one, then as a junior, obviously I started to get the ability and started to win things. Then obviously the next one was in America, and I won obviously double gold over there. Then I fought in South Africa. Then obviously I competed in the Europeans in Finland in '97. I won the Europeans then, and then obviously the World Championships in '98. I won the World Championships as under 18. So all my under 18 started to slot together. My form. I was putting because what we have in the men's team is obviously supposed to be for like adults, but my dad, obviously, because my ability, obviously, I was putting the men's team at 16 because I was fighting adults. All in the club, we didn't have a lot of kids to train with, so I was always been brought up with being turned over by adults. So obviously,
just a quick, in terms of obviously you said world champion. How big? How many members or how many countries does it span? Or it's like it's a global thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a global thing. I mean, you've got obviously the biggest thing you can win. Obviously, there's in the All Stars. Obviously, that's the biggest one you can. I mean, obviously in the karate form that I did in the Shukakai world, obviously there was about 45, 50 countries maybe. So it's a massive, obviously, and obviously I think when we had Japan, there was nearly 10,000 competitors.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, but obviously splitting, that's only because obviously all Shukakai go. But in general, when we go to a tournament, there's probably a world championship, you probably have maybe 1,400 competitors, and then the Europeans probably have 900 to 1,000 competitors. So it does obviously go down a little bit on Europeans because you haven't got all the world countries.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is obviously a challenge. But I just love the buzz of competition, and especially when it comes round to it. It's when I was younger, I always wanted to be on that men's team. That was my goal. You know what I mean? So, and then when I got on it when I was 16, and and I remember fighting a guy from South Africa who was like their national all-star champion at the time. And I took him out 6-0. And obviously he was like, who's this young kid come from? You know what I mean? And everyone couldn't believe it. I mean, the team lost because we fought for bronze, but it was like, where's this guy come from?
Yeah.
And
so that's
because I've never been afraid to fight anybody, and I literally just go for it. And my dad's always said, never have any heroes, but always respect your opponent. You know what I mean? Believe in what you can do yourself. But if you have heroes, then obviously it's kind of, although you want to live up to that, sometimes it can delay what, the process or the progress that you make as a competitor,
Yeah. So that discipline, that regimen or regime has been ground into you from very early.
Yeah, from day dot. Yeah. Since the day I started.
Yeah. So we'll fast forward now a bit. So obviously we're saying obviously a lot. That's one thing I've noticed.
Yeah.
I'm type 1 diabetic, and then I knew AJ before he was diabetic, I think. It was, and then out of the blue, wasn't it? What happened with
Yes.
your diagnosis, and when? I can't remember when it was, but please take us through sort of
Yeah.
that
So
process
basically,
when you were diagnosed. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, it was about Christmas time. I was really ill. I started to feel well. I kind of a little bit before I started to feel that thirst all the time, and I just put it down to me. And then I was, feeling tired and just sitting down, dropping off to sleep. I'd be driving and I'd get to traffic lights and just drop off to sleep, and then just quickly wake up. And I was like, "What's going on here?" And it was all signs, but I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I thought, and then my vision started going blurred, and then I went to the eye specialist because I thought obviously previous in my family there was people wore glasses, but then I thought maybe my vision's starting to go and I started to need glasses. And it was only then they said, "Well, you blurred vision, you know what I mean, but have you had a diabetes test?" I went, "No." And then one of the students at the karate, he was type 2 diabetic, and he bought his test kit in, and he said, "Just try this." And obviously, because the thing is, when I was training, I was doing Lucozades and like this, that, sugar, you know what I mean? So, and then literally, so all the time. So because obviously the training intensity of my training, so I'm always topping sugar all the time. And then I was drinking Lucozade for fun, you know what I mean? So, but he tested my levels, and it was like 35. And he went, "Let me test it again. 34.8.
His eyes just went, "Oh shit."
Yeah, and he went, "I think you need to go down to the doctor's, mate, tomorrow." And he said, because that's quite long. And this was after I'd done a training session, but I started to feel tired. Now, what was happening towards just probably in that year when I fought, I did well at
what year was it? Sorry, what year was it? How old were you? You're 2008.
28.
28 years old, yeah.
So obviously that the World Championship there, or the Europeans the year before, I did really well, but I started in fights, starting to feel really tired, you know what I mean? And it was almost people shouting at me, but it was almost I couldn't register, you know what I mean? And it was just like start to become sloppy and think, what's wrong with him? And
I started you're not firing. Your brain wasn't firing.
No, exactly, yeah. But I was kind of surviving, and obviously, I didn't know what was going. So I might have had it maybe quite a bit before I got diagnosed. Anyway, so during Christmas, I'm drinking all the time, going to the toilet regular. And anyway, when I got home, obviously after the friend at the karate bought the test kit in, I went home, started reading up on the internet, all these levels. It says, go to hospital immediately. Well, I didn't hang about. I literally just went straight to hospital. I just jumped in the car. I went straight up to the hospital. I went, "These are my levels." Then they got let's test your sugars.
Yeah.
And anyway, they took the levels and went, "Right, Mr. Daniels, let's get some drips in you." And they took the urine test, and they went, "You're not going anywhere for a couple of hours." Well, I can't have bought no clothes or nothing. I went, "No, I can't allow you to leave tonight. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And that was stuck in there for 2 days.
Keto acidosis, I imagine, and then ketones in your blood as well.
It was about 3. They said 3.5. They said about 3.5. They said, and they actually said to me that day, they said, "You know what?" He said, "We're surprised you're still standing."
Yeah.
He said, "Because the only reason you're still alive is because you're fit and healthy." He said, "Had you been a average person, you probably would have dropped down with a heart attack by now." So
it's crazy because again, I touched upon it with I think Lisa as well when I spoke to her on episode 3 about ketoacidosis again and high blood sugars and what it does in order to stop the heart basically, or to make it you either have a heart attack or lack of oxygen flowing through, or basically high blood sugar is like basically poison pumping around your system, and hence the lethargy, and you just like that lack of firing on all cylinders really. So so obviously you spent some time in hospital.
It was 3 days, I think, or two, it's about 2 or 3 days, I think. And then I come out, and then obviously that's kind of, it was, I mean, at first, because obviously a lot of people, when they came to do the needles, it didn't bother me. They're like, "Oh, dear me." No, normally people are like, "Oh, don't touch me." But I'm like, don't touch nothing hurts. Obviously, every so often you get that old nerve, but the needles have never really bothered me, to be honest. So
So what was that transition? Okay, we'll go from like that it's a shock, isn't it, when you're first diagnosed, and you being in the latter part of your 20s and in a highly competitive environment. What was it like for your family? You went
Well,
back
it was
home,
obviously
or?
a shock because obviously nobody else in the family has had diabetes.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
It's the same as mine as well. It's like,
but obviously, like I know diabetes is quite common in Scandinavian people because obviously that's obviously where I was born, but but it's not in my family at all. So obviously that, because obviously it's type 1 is obviously attack of the pancreas. It can just happen overnight. You know what I mean? Whereas type 2 is more diet related. I mean, obviously, when I got first, I know they said, "Oh, you don't have to stop." I mean, my aim has always been, I'm still going to live my life the way I want it. Obviously, you just got to make some small changes, but I wasn't going to allow it to beat me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then obviously, so I just kept the positive with it. And now, we all, like I said, when you first do it, it was trial and error. I was, getting the levels right and what's the name, and and obviously sometimes I've got it completely wrong. I've took too much insulin. I've gone to hypo stage, and I would just do this, or I've gone the other way.
I remember bringing you out of a hypo.
Yeah, exactly.
One time here in Ibiza.
But yeah. So I mean, but the thing is, the one thing I do notice now, being type 1, is that when I was especially when you train intense now, the sugar just gets ripped out of you. Almost like straight away. Whereas you have your pancreas, it kind of controls your signal. So obviously, if you haven't got sugar, whereas they say don't have too much sugar, we have in sugar-free stuff and all this, that, all the time. When you're actually training, you need sugar.
Yeah.
So you need double the amount of sugar, because it just rips out of you. And I feel sometimes jelly legs, and also and I feel dizzy, like and it sometimes just hit me when I don't even. I can even get to me with just by using my brain. If I'm teaching, I might not actually be showing too much thing, but because I'm talking, explaining, your brain's working. So obviously that also creates energy that you're talking, and before you realize your sugars have dropped down. So you've got to keep it's quite intense to keep those sugars up.
Again, when you first start off as a diabetic, and there is no set formula of how to be. Like everyone's got to go through that learning curve. Some are quicker at it, some are not. So obviously earlier in life for me, I grew up with it. It was just a part of my life and who I am. So, and if you're in your 20s or 30s, and that's a big change to the system. So in terms of like you say, obviously I do CrossFit, which again is super extreme sort of energy requirement and dump for like high explosive activity, which again karate is the same because you're in high impact explosive activity. But have you found, or did you find things as you sort of got the handle of it, did things improve as like say before a competition, because obviously you've got you must have a massive adrenaline dump while you're in sort of pre-comp mode and then training mode. So what are sort of what was sort of your routine for training, then pre-comp, and then?
Well, when I'm in competition, it's my test strips. Obviously, I'll go through so many test strips because I have to test maybe every 5 minutes to 10 minutes because obviously when I go into a fight, if I go into a fight at normal normal levels that it should be, by the end of that fight, I'll be in hypo.
Yeah.
So I have to actually enter a fight I have to enter it, say, into like I'll try to aim to try and go into a fight at like maybe sugar levels 12. So then actually in mid fight I drop into normal levels. So actually I'll still maintain the thing. If I'm too high, then because sometimes I try and top it up, and sometimes it creeps up, but then I have to drop it back down. So I have to monitor my insulin. But the thing is, because I'm been competing in impact sport, I can't wear a pump or anything.
I was just going to say, you can't have a pump either. You have to have the injections. So you don't even have like it's a hard thing to handle. Like,
Yes.
you can't have a pump on it all the time. And again, I testify by the pumps, especially for doing CrossFit, and it really transformed it transformed the way I treated exercise and sort of working out was the transition to the pump. And obviously with CrossFit, it doesn't, I can wear the pump and I can do what I want, but that then allowed me to push extra hard. But you're still on regular injections, aren't you? And then
that's correct. Because it's impact.
Yeah.
I can't, if I take a shot with a pump, it's like you literally stabbing me. You know what I mean? So, and it obviously can be dangerous because obviously it just goes straight inside. So I was told by I was told that obviously, unfortunately, until you retire, you know what I mean, from competing, you know what I mean, that's unfortunately just kind of where you at, you know what I mean. So
and you're not going to be retiring anytime soon.
Well, I mean, I'll try and keep as long as I can, you know what I mean. But then obviously my next stage is to obviously go into coaching, obviously, because I'm a lot into coaching now anyway. I coach quite a big, so it's like a giving back. So it's that side of it. So I'll probably look at adjusting things once that competing stage is finished. You know what I mean? Which will probably be in a few years.
And during we'll now dip into the darker side. Have you had hypos while competing? Anything sort of serious?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have. And sometimes, I've come off unscathed, or I've had too high a sugar, because obviously sometimes I thought I was okay, and then actually because the sugar level actually made me go things, but that makes me feel tired, and obviously lack of that oxygen. So then it makes me feel slower. But it is really, I'm like on heat when I'm trying to test it in like a competition mode, because the adrenaline's there as well. You know what I mean? I have to get it 100% right if I'm going to compete in my ultimate best. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of times I come off the mat, and obviously just by experience and because of obviously I'm quite decent at it, and I can kind of I've kind of got away with sometimes that somebody might not been so experienced, or I didn't pick up on the signs, because I've gone into survival mode where, to survive, but I've got out of it, on the other side, on the positive side. But then, sometimes my dad comes and I'm blowing. I say, I can't breathe or something, because it's to do with the diabetics. You know what I mean? So he said, well, you can pull out. I said, no, I'm not pulling out.
So,
you know what I mean?
Stubbornness is a part of that, and obviously, so. Foods, in terms of foods, do you do anything particular with what you eat, especially again pre-competition? And it all depends on what stage you are.
Well, obviously,
what you do. What did you do like during competitions, pre-competitions with your food?
So food wise, I mean, obviously pasta is obviously a big part of obviously a sportsman, obviously even with a diabetic, because it's to do with that long, slow release. So I'll try to, especially on competition days, you know what I mean? Always try to have slow release energy on the morning. I'll always have a big breakfast. I can't because I can't even going to work. I can't just go out the house without breakfast. I have to have it, because by midday I'm like flagging if I have had nothing. So I always try to have slow releasing, like wholemeal or porridge or something like on the morning, because that'll be slow release on top of the fast rapid acting sugars, that glucose or stuff that I might have, because even though they said you can't have glucose that as normal, because on the day-to-day level you can't go over the top with obviously sugar stuff, but when you're competing, that sugar, it just rips out of you for that split second.
Exactly, it's needed. Speaking of blood sugars, so halfway through, so and again, so you see, this is something I will be touching on in a later podcast, in say the community, quote unquote. People have this vilifying of carbohydrates. I am not of that ilk, and that is because the amount of movement or training that I do. So I can easily go through 150 grams of carbs a day, and I'm still at I'm at 77 kilos, and I can rinse through calories. But it depends on the carbohydrate. It depends on what you're doing. And
well, yeah, I mean, obviously, if I'm if like when obviously I'm out of, we are not in season or anything at the moment,
yeah,
so you know, sometimes, yeah, I mean, to be fair, sometimes I've gone through dark days when I just think, well, dear me, I'm sick of this, you know what I mean? And obviously, because it will hit you, and every diabetic it will hit, where
yes.
sometimes you just think, what's this? I'll give up, and
I
just
will, I
that's it.
will
I'll
have,
stop it.
yeah,
I'm doing what I want to
want,
eat, and that's it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I will
and
have
then
what I want.
obviously,
No one's going to tell me not what to have, and
yeah, exactly.
we
So
all go through it. It's the burnout
yeah,
that we all have, and I think that comes part of the mental stress, and it's not even the mental
yes,
stress. It's just it can be a stress at the start, and then it just becomes sort of a part of your
but it's
mental headspace
yeah,
permanently. It doesn't
that's
switch
it.
off, and this is something that other people think. Again, and I don't like to make it binary in that we say diabetics, non-diabetics,
Yeah,
but it's like, oh, why can't you just have a day off, or why can't I have some time? You cannot have any time off. It
no,
is 24 hours in your 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
yeah,
In terms of sort of, we'll cover mental health side of things.
yeah.
I assume you sort of were prepped for that because of the karate side of things, the discipline.
Yes, I was. Yeah, but I mean, obviously, obviously, don't like I said. Obviously, it has got me down, and obviously that mental health thing. Sometimes it has got to me. Sometimes, you know what I mean. I won't lie about that because it has. You know what I mean.
Yeah,
But you kind of get through it, and obviously, I mean, I've I was been in hospital since I've been diagnosed once with the keto acidosis because obviously I was really ill, and then I thought that was to do with my background insulin because I thought
yeah,
I was already high, so I was drinking, you know what I mean, and I thought because I was really ill, I thought I'm not if I take background insulin, I'm going to be even hyper even more. You
yeah.
know what I mean? So stupidly, I didn't take it. Next month, I mean, luckily one of my students, the mom, she was a nurse, and I was like, I'm still good. She went, you know, so I'll get straight to it. But then once you drop in that keto acidosis, you're in that cycle, and it's hard
It's
to get
hard to
out
get
of it.
out. Yeah,
Yeah, and I was in hospital for a good 4 or 5 days, and
and
that was like only maybe I think that was about 4 years ago. You know what I mean? For
yeah,
4 years ago now.
and that you will generally, I think every diabetic will run into ketoacidosis at some point,
Yeah,
and it's hard to get out of once you're in that cycle because the body basically starts eating away at
yeah,
itself to produce
that's it.
to get its energy. So I remember
Yeah,
one of my first ones, or one of my ones in my 20s, I lost, I think, 10 kilograms or something, and I was
yeah,
like, yeah, I was nearly dead. One of the many times of nearly dying. It
yeah,
seems, pushing the boat out. So yeah, yeah. So and the mental health side of things is, yeah, through your discipline, through what you did, that was sort of a benefit. But there's always going to be dark days within
yes, of course.
anyone's space. But like I say, you get through that just by getting through it, don't you?
Yeah,
Did
of
you?
course. I mean, you just like I said, you learn to live with it. It becomes part of your daily thing. I mean, obviously, you obviously help. We all live in hope that one day the doctors say, "Oh, we found the cure. We're going to
Yeah.
put this," you know what I
You
mean?
know
And
what?
then we've hip hooray.
It's funny, and I think I thought about this since when I was 5 years old, all the way up through about a cure, and it's one of those things that would I like. I would love a cure for everyone else and everyone, but I
Yeah,
don't know if it would be one of those things that if you
yeah,
take it, it's become so much a part of me now,
yeah. I mean,
and
yeah,
going forward, it's like one of those things. It's hard. It is me, hence the
yeah. I
diabetic.
mean, obviously, yeah. I mean,
I don't.
obviously, you've obviously gone through a lot more than I have at the moment. I'm luckily, I mean, my eyes still. When I've had them tested, actually,
Yeah.
I've had the letter today because obviously the pandemic. My eye tests have been put up now, so you haven't had an eye test for a year. But
And
obviously, every time
do you
I've
know?
gone, they've said,
I'll stop you there. So one of the most important things here is
yeah,
never ever miss your eye tests.
no,
Never. Because this is I missed. Look, everything that you should not do, I did,
Yeah.
Because I had such a battle with my diabetes through and
Yeah.
my childhood and everything else. I had such a battle that I was just like, I really treated it like an enemy. And
Yeah.
that was my mistake for many years, was treating diabetes like an enemy. And I see it and saying like, I hate it. I hate diabetes, or I hate this. And that does not create a healthy mental space to live with it.
No.
The moment I started treating it like a friend, and with the analogy that I got taught this analogy by a guy I will talk about in the future from Switzerland, who was a diabetes specialist who I spent time with, was you have to release yourself from that prison, because you put yourself in a prison of diabetes and you think you're the only one in the prison as well, and you're like, oh, you don't understand, or no one understands. And yeah, actually many people do understand. And the moment I started to treat it like a full-on relationship as a friend or a partner is really when things started to change around. And I stopped using the words hate as well is my relationship, because I think if you go into any relationship hating anything, it's never going to work out good, is it?
No, I think so, of course.
No. So
Yeah, I mean,
go on, mate.
no, I was going, as I said, obviously touch wood at the moment since 2008, since I've had, obviously my eyes have been obviously okay. Obviously, I've always passed them, no problem. There've been nothing, no complication, anything on my eyes or anything. But obviously, still got all my senses.
Yes.
To feeling, but so I'm glad of that at the moment. But I know the day is going to come where they're going to say, "Well, you're starting to deteriorate," because it's going to hit you without you knowing it. So
yeah, so it can sneak up on you. You might get through to your 50s, 60s, 70s, and yeah, that's good. So one part of that finally we'll do is health and fitness has played a massive part of your life, hasn't it, as well? And I think
it has,
that's something that I'm pushing for everyone to do, from the kids through all the way up, is if you're diabetic, get moving more, or really find a regime or a plan, or do something where you work out your food's quite, like, say, I weigh literally everything now. I'm one of those crazy I'm a crazy one that weighs every proportion. I know exactly how many calories I eat. I eat 5 meals a day, and as I said, I have if I'm it depends on how hard I'm training and what I'm doing, but I'll have 100, 150, 200 grams of carbs in a day. And
I see the thing is for myself, obviously with this COVID pandemic, it's kind of I've had a few ups and downs with my diabetes during the pandemic, because obviously my training, obviously we've been prevented from training. So all I've been doing is doing a lot of teaching on Zoom. So I haven't been able to go out and do and do my competitions. I haven't been in that. I've kind of been in off peak for too long. And now, now I'm trying to get that motivation back again to get back in that peak, because obviously, because we've been in COVID for so long, you know what I mean, that I've kind of got out of that routine a little bit of continuous training. I mean, I've done my teaching and training, but it's not the same as training, because obviously we've all, obviously myself, I haven't been able to go to the gym or do this or too much because you're working all the time. And then, so it's like now it's, obviously now things are getting back to normal again, hopefully. I can kind of get back on that regime, because obviously I've missed training the way I want to train, as more, especially competing. I can't wait to get back on the mat again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To obviously be in that competition environment. So, that's kind of now we're starting to see the things open up again. It's giving me that drive again. Because obviously I think a lot of people, as I said, are fed up with the situation going on.
It's necessary. But you've had your vaccine,
yeah, I've had both of them.
Good. So right, we'll wrap up. Give us 3 tips or 3 things as a type 1 diabetic that you would pass on to any other diabetes people.
Well, obviously check your sugars regular. It's obviously priority, you know what I mean? As you obviously say, never miss an eye test.
But
most importantly, obviously, yourself. If you feel if you feel obviously that you don't feel alone, if you've got any, if you always research, there's always people out there to help you if you feel, alone. And obviously there's different elements that, like you said earlier, Brett, is that if you get stuck on something with regards to diabetes, or you feel down, then always look at the positives to bring you out of it.
Yeah.
That you're not alone, and at the end of the day, you can get out of it. And obviously sport is something that can help you stay fitter for longer and stay alive for longer, basically.
Yeah,
don't let it beat you.
That's the thing is, you feel on your own, and I went through that so many times. But the moment you start to connect with everyone, and that is again the purpose of this podcast, and just even talking about it. Look, we're just talking about, even if no one sees this podcast or no one listens to it, I've talked to you, and that just makes that's half the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Half the problem gone is that we share the story, and there's some benefit in that. So, right, we're going to wrap up. Any social media or anything to give it a little push or plug or whatever? Because you're based in the Midlands, aren't you?
Yes, based in the Midlands. Yes. So, by all means, what topic? You mean push the podcast? You mean?
Yeah, no. Push yourself. Like if anyone wants.
Oh yeah. So basically, we're part of If you want to get in touch with either training or anything, people that are close in the Midlands, then you can contact, obviously, see us on the website, which is www.shukakai-skf.com. That's SHUKOKAI-skf.com. Or you can obviously email myself. That's adaniels@shukakai-skf.com if you want to train. Obviously, I'm obviously
I'll put it
as a coach
and everything.
So I'm there as a coach. Obviously, I can give you the numbers as well, obviously on the description. That's fine. I'm obviously glad to obviously chat to you this evening. And
so this podcast is in memory of your father, and dedicated to him. So
obviously, like I said, he was the mentor. And obviously, my thing now is to make sure his legacy never dies, and that's kind of thing that drives me forward now, is to make him proud. So, it's for me now is to pass on his teaching. So, the coaching side is like a major part of me giving back, as obviously my father gave back to karate, and obviously dedicated his life to.
Yes, big respect on that. So, right then, so we're wrapping up properly now. So the podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon Music, I'm reading off my script, and on Mixcloud and Apple iTunes at some point soon. It is The Conscious Diabetic. So thank you, as always, every week, as I say, from the bottom of my heart, for taking the time to listen to this. If there's anything that you want to know, connect with me, connect with AJ, or connect just anything, send us a review, email, message, whatever. So Instagram and Facebook is @Conscious Diabetic, and then website is consciousdiabetic.com, and share it, push it to all your diabetic, non-diabetic people, just so spread the word. So big love to everyone. Thank you very much for listening.
For more information about being a conscious diabetic, check out consciousdiabetic.com. Check out our Conscious Diabetic socials on Instagram and Facebook @Conscious Diabetic. Are you a conscious diabetic? Leave us your reviews and feedback.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Big love. Love.
Love.
From all of us.